like I explained, I haven't turned this into a post yet, but one of the most important self-development exercises you can follow is, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but the process of becoming more sincere. Like, your growth, your value, your maturity as a person is arguably directly correlated with your level of sincerity. People can pretend to be sincere. People can pretend to care and not be sincere, not care. And so why is it that sincerity is the number one marker of development? When I think of sincerity, I tie it to honesty. And if you are not capable of being honest with yourself, you cannot learn, you cannot grow, because you will not be able to admit your own faults. You will not see your faults. Or if you do, your ego defenses will trigger, and you're going to bury it and not confront it. And that will result in no growth. It will often result in you attacking people who expose your flaws. You will, name call them, mock them, attack them, and try to discredit them. If you seeing them shows you your own flaws indirectly just by the way they live, they can make you insecure, etc., etc., etc. Or they directly call them out or encourage you to think about them. And so that destroys your relationships. It means you're only going to have relationships with people who are most likely also avoiding their problems. And it just turns into this whole thing of mental gymnastics of, you might value something more in your life than you do the internal development. If you prioritize the external development, finishing projects, making money, etc., etc., you might neglect your inner realization because it's too much work, it's draining, etc., etc., difficult, or you might not even be able to admit there's something to improve. Now, I believe internal development comes first. It's the most important thing, aside from survival. You have, you're feeding yourself and you have a safe place to sleep. Okay. Internal development comes first, aside from that. And so, what is internal development? It's the level of sincerity. It's being honest with yourself. It's spending time intentionally contemplating your flaws, looking back on your mistakes, understanding why you made them, what you could have done differently. And it's more than just, when I say what you could have done differently, it's not about a different decision that you could have made. It's about how could you have handled your emotions more effectively that would have indirectly or directly resulted in a different decision. It's not the willpower of the different decision, it's the processing of the emotions. How do you handle yourself? If you understand what I'm saying. And so what I mean by that is, you might know the right thing, and you might think that you should have just made that decision, the right decision that you knew was the right decision. But this goes into the discussion of, it's not about willpower. Willpower is important for certain things. If you cannot find a solution and you must use willpower, then use willpower. But it's about the internal shift. What can you do to be able to make that decision without requiring willpower, to where it becomes natural, where it becomes effortless? How do you do that? You must develop clarity. You must develop awareness. How do you develop awareness? You have to let go of your internal walls, the protective layers that you don't want to admit because it's hard and difficult. where, you have to relax. You have to breathe, stretch, stretch. Like, your body's tense, you're going to be tense. And, it has to do with the sincerity. You stretch, you meditate, you eat well, you take care of yourself. You have activity hormones, you need to exercise. Because if you don't utilize the activity hormones, then they're going to cause you to be anxious or aggressive. So first, exercise. According to your activity hormones, you're aggressive, you're anxious, you need to have some exercise in your routine every day. Even if it's playing the drums, for example. Next, you need to eat well. Even if it's cooked, whatever, the best version that you are willing to do. If you're eating a bunch of sugar and drinking coffee, you're going to be stimulated, and it's going to be harder to relax and lower your defenses. Red meat in the primal diet stimulates your adrenaline. Chicken will make you more calm. Fish helps with trauma recovery and meditation. So, balance your diet. Some people might need more red meat, though, for certain things. And then, of course, there's assuming that you're into Vastu, which you're watching this, nobody really knows about Vastu yet. But organize your home. Take down all unnecessary decorations. Strip your house down to the bare bones. Take everything off the walls. Take everything off the ceiling. Get rid of as much stuff as possible. Keep it as plain as possible. If you're going to put up a decoration, it has to be intentional. You have to learn astrology, and you have to learn the elements and the directions and the colors. And you have to put everything in the proper direction. If you don't know that, it'd be better to have nothing in your home. Okay, what am I getting to right here? I was talking about, what was authenticity and something else. What was it? There's two things I was talking about. Awareness and clarity. Clarity, let's just talk about the other things right now. Clarity, how do you develop clarity? You have to clear your RAM. You have to clear your cache. You have to swipe up all the apps on your phone in your mind. How do you do that? You need to expose yourself to less information. You need to expose yourself to less information, less stimulus. That involves the amount of items in your home. That involves the amount of apps in your phone. That involves the amount of pictures on your phone. That involves the amount of notifications you have. That involves how many videos you're watching. That involves your relationships that you're juggling. Any drama in those relationships. You have drama in those relationships, take a step back so you can find some clarity in your life, because that's going to demand all your attention. How else do you develop clarity? You have to learn to let go. What is letting go? Letting go, what I'm referring to is letting go of thoughts. You're thinking, you need to be able to clear your mind. They say you hear the word pink elephant and you can't help but think of a pink elephant in your mind. Well, if you meditate, you can clear your mind. You can hear the word pink elephant and not have a pink elephant pop up in your mind. So through meditation, you develop the capability of actually having clarity in your mind, in your consciousness. Being able to actually sit and have a much lower volume of thoughts than you would if you didn't meditate regularly. If you have all these thoughts without your control, you're just thinking without your consent, your mind's creating thoughts, then it's going to be hard to be clear, because your mental resources are going to be being used just to handle all the mental junk. So if you're full of mental junk, and let's say you're eating like shit, you're not going to have the mental resources to be clear. You're going to be running on nothing. My mom fucking smokes cigarettes in this car. So it bothers me. It's just getting to me. Fuck. Makes me want to gag. So, you need to develop clarity through proper diet, exercise, meditation. How do you meditate? Watch my meditation video. Don't just sit down and try to meditate according to what you think meditation is. Watch my meditation content, because the way I approach it and teach it is very different than how you've heard. Okay, so it's about clarity, and what was the other word? Well, there's one thing that's important. The will to improve. Why would somebody not have the will to improve? They're stubborn. They're fearful. Well, it's not fearful, actually. Stubborn would be a reason. Fearful would more so be unable to handle the pain, or the discomfort, something along those lines. And why would that be the case? They've been beat up so much in their life. They've never been nurtured. Or they haven't received adequate nurturing. They don't feel safe to do so as a result. And they fight and fight and fight because they're just trying to find safety inside themselves. But here's the thing. Many people in those types of patterns will not even allow themselves to get into a situation that allows them to have the nurturing they need in their relationships because, they'll only be able to surround themselves with people who, are also avoiding their problems. But here's another thing. Is it possible you could get lucky and find someone who you just magically feel totally comfortable with and everything's fine? It is possible. But you might hope for that, and 20 years go by and it never happens. It happens, but it might not happen for you. So, the more realistic, practical solution would be to, you'd have to see the value in the inner work over the external work. Why? Your internal world is not balanced. Well, your external world will not be built really with sincerity, because your wants and needs, if you are not living with sincerity, are not going to be in alignment with what you actually need, only with what you think you need. So you do the external work first, you make the money, you get the relationships, all that, etc., etc. When you start to do your inner work, what you've built is no longer going to be in alignment with who you are. So then those relationships are likely to end, and all that work you've done in your business or whatever, you might not even be interested in it anymore. Or you might be stuck in it, have responsibilities and obligations. You do the inner work first, you will have a greater level of peace of mind, happiness, clarity, etc., no matter the situation in life. You do the external work before the inner work, you will be dependent on the perfect, safest environment in order to feel okay. If something's not right, you'll flip out because you cannot handle anything being out of place. Unless you do the inner work first, you'll be able to handle anything better. Now, what's the first step of the inner work? Of course, you got diet, nutrition, meditation, etc., etc., but what are we actually thinking about? What are we working towards? You need to sit down. Think the first thing. What's the first thing that pops up when you think? At what point was I being stubborn when I know the other person was right? At what time did I make the decision I know I shouldn't have because I was being stubborn with myself? Or I was, someone might believe that they don't deserve to be happy. That they don't deserve what they need. They don't deserve to have their needs met. And then so what do they do? They do the thing that's not in their own best interest. Why? Because they're acting in alignment with their belief that they don't deserve what's best for themselves. Now, what should someone do about that? Tell them, you do deserve to meet your own needs. You are worthy of love, etc., etc. That doesn't really work, because you can convince them to lie to themselves, but they're secretly not going to believe it. They'll pretend to believe it because they think it might work, but it never works. Why? Because when someone doesn't feel like they deserve something, telling them they do deserve it, you are invalidating their feelings, actually, and making them feel more alone. More like nobody understands. And in turn, you're not meeting their need, which further reinforces their belief that they don't deserve, And how would you not be meeting their need if you're trying to help them with that in that way? All right, I'm recording a video. What do you say?
That's not parked by the van.
Okay, I'll move it in a second.
Right there. I'm sorry.
Sorry, she's messed up my train of thought. My mom came outside. I'm not going to be able to remember what I was saying until you give me some space, unfortunately. Fuck, what was I saying? I need to suck an egg. Okay, why would it be invalidating? Because they don't even really know what the need is. They might not know what the need is that they aren't getting met, and